Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first episode of We're Just Talking. Today's topic on the table is underrated films, those movies that just sort of fly under the radar, but we have a very soft spot for in our hearts. All right, joining us for the introductory episode of We're Just Talking is the lovely Heather. Say hello, Heather.
Hi, how's it going, everybody?
I've known Heather for a couple of years. The two of us used to work together for Facebook, doing a job that no mortal human should ever do. And
No, please no.
we bonded over our mutual love of films. And today we're going to be discussing our own personal lists of what we think the most underrated films are. We each have a list of 5. And Heather, I'd like you to get us going here if you could.
Ooh, ladies go first. I'm excited. All right, my number 5 will be Speed Racer. Have you ever seen that movie?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. What was that, 2000? Was that 2007?
I believe so,
Okay.
yes, 2007. With Emile Hirsch. Great cast. John Goodman, Christina Ricci, Matthew Fox, Susan Sarandon. It did poorly in the theater, and I saw it the weekend it came out, and it brought me back to like a childhood, childlike, wonder feeling. Like I was in the edge of my seat the whole time, and it was a really unique experience that I hadn't felt in a movie, and I couldn't recall how long. And it was like that throughout the entire movie when I watched it, and it did poorly in theaters. It seems like nobody really gave it the credit that I think it deserves.
I remember it being like really visually arresting, like in a good way, like just
Oh yeah, like it
overpowering.
melted my brain.
Yeah.
Like my husband and I watched it, like after we got out, we're like, I felt like I was like smoking some marijuana, but I didn't. Like it was just visually really stimulating, and also just the speed and transition of each scene was, kind of going at the speed of light, but also not. Like the stills, like it would go like really fast, and then it would kind of stop in slow motion with like the person's face, and I really enjoyed it.
I feel like it's sort of, because I've heard people talking about it more the last like 5 or 6 years than I have at any other
Yeah,
point.
when it was like the 10-year anniversary or something like that, I saw a couple of articles saying like Speed Racer, like no one ever appreciated that movie, and it should get more credit.
Yeah, I feel
than
like
what
it's
it
sort of
got.
gone the way of like Scott Pilgrim, where it kind of grew
Yes,
its audience on home video.
That's probably the last movie I think I can relate to about visually being stimulated
Well, that's
by
an
a movie
amazing
like
film.
that.
That's a good
Yeah.
choice. I approve.
Fantastic.
Well done. Well done. Speed Racer. My first pick is a 2010 horror film by the name of The Last Exorcism.
Oh,
It was
very
produced by
nice
Eli
choice.
Roth, who I'm not a huge fan of his directorial stuff. Never big on Hostel. Always had trouble with the torture porn genre. But it was directed by a guy named Daniel Stamm, and I just thought I think it's one of the better found footage movies I think I've ever seen. Most found footage movies, I think, tend to rely on jump scares and cheap thrills, which is fine because I like Paranormal Activity as much as the next person. But Last Exorcism genuinely creeped me out. Like there were things that they showed in that movie visually that were locked in my mind for days, and
I remember my skin was crawling when I first saw that movie.
I just thought the cast was amazing. The woman that plays Nell, her name is Ashley Bell. I thought she physically did an amazing performance. I mean, all the stuff that she does when she's possessed was in camera. There was no special effects involved. So all the weird bending and positions I thought was just extraordinary. I think the score is really subtle and interesting, and the premise, like the idea of a preacher who's been performing exorcisms for a decade, who doesn't actually believe in God, is doing it just as a hustle, and his last job, which he's invited this camera crew along to film, is for the first time an actual possession. I just think that premise is so unique and so interesting. I can't speak highly enough about it.
I wouldn't have. That like totally is off my radar. I completely forgot about that movie. But
Yeah, I went back and forth. The other choice that I had was John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness, which is, look at your face.
I don't know if I've seen that
You don't
movie.
even know what I'm talking. That's my exactly.
No.
How sad is that there's a John Carpenter movie that you've never even heard of?
Oh, that breaks my heart. But
Okay,
now
you know what?
excited
I'm gonna
because there's a little gem out there hiding from me that
I'm
I
gonna
didn't know
bump
about.
what my next choice is, and I'm gonna make that my next choice. So you go ahead.
What? All right. My next one was, I want to say this was 2000 and when September, it was 2002, Death to Smoochie, because it came out a few months after 9/11. I I know your face. You've seen the movie?
I almost put it on my list.
Yay!
I almost put it on my list. Yeah.
I think that movie was just, I feel like it was ahead of its time almost. Danny DeVito directed it, and also, did a little starring in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Robin Williams' performance, I feel like, was just completely underrated in
Rainbow
that
Randolph.
role.
Yeah. Ed Norton was great in that movie too.
Yeah, he plays Sheldon, which he's like the utmost standing guy. I don't know if you've seen like Ted Lasso recently.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Show. Yeah. Kind of similar character, just no matter what you throw at him, no matter how terrible you treat the guy, he just gives you positivity and is this super optimistic. That movie, just after seeing Robin Williams in so many like serious roles years previous, for like Patch Adams, What Dreams May Come, and Bicentennial Man. 1 Hour Photo.
Yeah,
1 Hour Photo was creepy.
1 Hour Photo is amazing. Yeah.
But I'm a huge comedy fan, and seeing Robin Williams like doing a little comeback, it was a dark comedy nonetheless, but he's a fun, crazy, and wild. Like back in the day, he was into a lot of cocaine, and just Randolph really reminded me of old Robin Williams and him like coming out.
He definitely.
He tapped into that character so well, and I think that's why I loved that performance.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Danny DeVito as a director.
Yes, he did Matilda.
Everything. Well, I mean, and he's done really dark comedies really well. He did Throw Mama from the Train with Billy Crystal, which I love. He did another really underrated movie called War of the Roses with Kathleen Turner and Michael Douglas.
Ooh, I haven't seen that.
It's about a married couple that's going through a really aggressive divorce, but they both refuse to move out of the house. So
that's terrible.
It gets to the point where they're physically trying to kill each other. Like they're
yes.
It's
I love it.
Absolutely extraordinary. And yeah, Death to Smoochie just lays right in with that. I love Jon Stewart is great in that movie.
I know, that crazy bowl haircut.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Oh yeah, no. Death to Smoochie. Chef's kiss. Well done. Well done. Well done.
I'm glad you liked.
Well, my fourth pick was going to be a small movie from 1986 starring Rutger Hauer called The Hitcher. But now knowing that you have never heard of In the Mouth of Madness, I'm fucking booting that out, and we're talking about In the Mouth of Madness. I have no notes for this,
let's do
so
it.
We're winging it. So
I'm learning something today.
In '95, John Carpenter made this film called In the Mouth of Madness, and it's one of the few sort of pre-Scream meta movies. I put it right alongside Wes Craven's New Nightmare, in that it sort of deals with the industry of Hollywood a little bit. It's very self-aware. It's about a writer named Sutter Kane, who's basically that universe's equivalent of Stephen King. And he writes a series of horror novels and goes missing right before his last novel is supposed to come out. So Sam Neill plays a private detective that's hired to find the author so they can get this last book published. He finds the author in a town that doesn't exist, a town that only exists in the books. And are you still with me, or are you frozen over there?
Yeah, no,
okay.
I'm fine.
You're very stoic. It's very hard to tell you. It's like I can't.
No, that's just my resting, listening thing.
I can't read you. You're like a sphinx. So basically, the idea is that this world that this author has created in these books has become so popular with people that it's actually manifested into a real place. So everything that's written about in this book, monsters and demons and possessed children, it's actually manifested. And that's all. Since you haven't seen it, I should shut the hell up. But it's the most underrated Carpenter movie. I would say it doesn't quite reach its potential. It kind of falls apart in the third act, but everything in the first hour and 20 minutes of that movie is absolutely fantastic. Cannot
The
recommend it.
premise sounds so familiar. Like I don't think I've seen it. It doesn't sound that familiar, but
It's very,
I'll
very
watch.
good. Yeah. Put it on the list.
ASAP.
Put it on the list.
My third one would be Death Proof. I know it's a popular one still because it's from the infamous Quentin Tarantino, but I feel like movie fans kind of threw it in the trash and didn't really care about it when I think it's one of his best films. Not like I wouldn't put it in the top. That's another conversation is to talk about Quentin Tarantino favorites.
Yeah.
But I just feel like it was underrated in the Quentin Tarantino world, or just movie world in general. I just thought the action scenes were fantastic. Like I've heard rumors before that with the car scene, the infamous car scene, that it was all CGI or there was actual stunt doubles. But I recently confirmed that it's not either of those.
It's all practical.
It was all, it was all practical with dummies that I can't remember his name, but the guy from Walking Dead series put it all together. And
okay.
He put it all together for Tarantino. He was like, we can do this practical where it looks real. And they just made all like cast dummies out of all the girls.
You talking about Greg Nicotero?
Yes.
Okay.
Good name drop.
See, when you say the famous car scene, my brain had to go. There's which one is she talking about? Because that whole movie is famous car scenes. You're talking about the slaughter where the car kills the.
The first story with Stuntman Mike where he
Gotcha.
kills the girls, and then with Zoe on the second story.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she's a fantastic actress.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah, she did all of that at 70 miles per hour at the least on that car with just like I think she was like belayed using like this wire that she was hanging to on the hood of the car. But she did all of that herself, which.
Well, I first noticed her in the some of the special features from Kill Bill because she was Uma Thurman's stunt double in the Kill Bill films, and I'm like, oh my god, this woman's amazing. And I thought it was so fantastic that Quentin gave her basically the starring role. He saw her in a documentary film, and she basically like had the viewer fall in love with her, like as you know in the documentary film. And after he watched that, he's like, I need to make her a role in a movie. No, she's fantastic. Did you get to see that in a theater?
I did. Okay. I saw the double feature with Planet of Terror. We did opening night.
Grindhouse to this day is one of my favorite theatrical experiences I think I've ever had. It was like
agreed
4.5 hours sitting in a seat, fake trailers in between the movies. Like for the people,
I didn't get home till like I can't recall, like 3 a.m. It was so late.
Well, for the people that got it, it was just the best thing in the world. I just think I think the reason it didn't perform the way it did, one is because when you're showing a movie that's basically 4 hours, you're getting you're getting like half your showtime's gone in a day. I mean, most movies can run 6-7 times a day. Now you're getting 3 or 4 showtimes, so you're gonna make less money right out of the gate. But it was sort of like it was a very specific genre and a very specific tribute to a certain kind of film that I think if you're not a genre head like we are and like Quentin is, it didn't tickle your bone. But I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Kurt Russell might be, outside of The Thing and Big Trouble in Little China, might be my favorite Kurt Russell performance in a movie.
I still have a crush on that man to this day.
He is a pretty man.
He's a very gorgeous man.
He's got the best
an
hair
amazing
in the
actor.
world. That guy.
Oh, I know. He does so much of it. Like he's gonna die with a full head of hair. Do you know who was supposed to be the original actor, like who Quentin wanted that role for? It wasn't originally for Kurt Russell.
I feel like I've heard it, but I don't remember. Who was it?
Mickey Rourke.
Mickey Rourke. I think he made a good call.
I think he did too. Out of all the other men that I can think of as like actors that could do a creepy stuntman Mike, Mickey would definitely fall into that category, but
Yeah.
I can't think of anyone else but Kurt Russell. Like Kurt Russell nailed it, and
Yeah, I don't know
I'm
that a
glad.
woman would get into a car with Mickey Rourke the same way they would get into a car with Kurt
Exactly.
Russell.
I agree because Kurt Russell is charming and good looking even at his older age. Where Mickey Rourke, he was good looking at one point, but he's a little busted.
He's a little busted. Well, that's a lot of that's by his own doing. I think my favorite scene in that movie is when he sits down outside right after he reads the poem to Butterfly.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
And he pulls out his black book. And he does this John Wayne voice. It's a lot like the voice he uses in Big Trouble Little China, where he's like, "I put everybody I know in this book." That whole scene where he's like, "I'm gonna have to file you under chicken shit." That's so fantastic, so fantastic.
I know.
Well done.
Every time I see that scene, it gives me goosebumps. I'm like, ah.
It's just written in
My
pace
favorite
so well.
scene is when Butterfly gives him that dance, and just the movie or the song choice, and just the dancing and everything.
I don't know if you remember this, but that scene when in the double feature wasn't included in the double feature. It's on the standalone.
The dance?
Yeah, where Butterfly gives him the lap dance. That's on the standalone DVD now, but in the theater, it cut to a shot of Real missing. So we actually didn't get that scene in the double feature.
Now that I'm trying to remember,
Both movies, actually. Well, both movies, when they were released on home video, were released separately at first, and they extended both of them.
yes, I do remember
Planet Terror
that.
has like 6 minutes of different stuff, and there's a whole black and white scene in Death Proof now that wasn't there in the theatrical run, where Stuntman Mike runs into the girls at like a 7-Eleven.
Huh.
Yeah. Fun fact.
Learn something. I love it.
Fun fact. Well, what am I on? 3 here or 2? I can't remember.
You're on 3.
Am I really?
Wait,
you're right,
no,
you're right.
yeah, because I went first.
You're right,
You're on
you're
3.
right. My third pick is I might get headhunted for this because it's a movie that made $500 million, and I'm calling it underrated. My third pick is Ready Player One by Steven Spielberg.
Nah, I love that movie.
It's it did pretty well critically, and it made a boatload of money. But it's one of those things where once it was out of theatrical rotation, I never heard anybody talk about it.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like the closest thing to like a 1984 Spielberg movie he's made since 1984. Like I thought it was
Yep.
charming and whimsical, and just for someone that's a pop culture junkie like me to have a movie like that that's just wall to wall references and Easter eggs, it was heaven on earth.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
We haven't had that in so long. Like we all crave it from our childhood.
Yeah. I mean,
That's what got us into movies in the first place.
absolutely. And there's elements of, Back to the Future in there. There's elements of all sorts of little, and Spielberg was a producer on Back to the Future, so that makes some sense. But there's just like this really sweet and innocent vibe to it that I feel like modern audiences are a little too jaded to kind of go along for a ride
Yeah.
like that anymore. But to me, it was pure joy. And then that whole sequence with the Overlook Hotel was just, oh my God. This is the nerdiest thing I'm ever going to admit to.
Uh,
I saw that movie opening night and not knowing what was coming. And when they go into the Overlook Hotel and it's exactly as it was in The Shining, some weird broken part of me made my eyes well up. I swear to God.
nah.
Oh, I was just like, oh my God, it's the Overlook, for The Shining, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just lost it. I just thought that movie was sweet and charming and fun, and I feel like it kind of gets relegated to the lower tier of the Spielberg stuff.
I agree with that. I feel like it kind of fell off. It did well, like you said, in the box office, and people are talking about it. Like people started reading the book as soon as they heard about the movie coming out, and everyone got excited. And then it kind of just fell off, and everyone forgot about it. I thought about putting it on my list, but
Did you really?
yeah, no, I really did. But I thought it did too well still that it shouldn't have been on the list. But I'm glad you did put it on the list because I think it still deserves some credit.
It's a tough one to justify. I'm aware of that, but yeah, I just feel like
Stick to what you love and what the heart says.
Yeah,
And
I mean, when I
it
talk
should
about
be
that
on.
movie, people look at me funny, like I'm crazy for liking it, and it's like, no, it's that movie's joy in a bottle, especially for like a cinephile. Like, if that's a movie for movie lovers.
It is.
All right, you're up, young lady.
My second one is Sunshine.
Wow. Sorry, I didn't mean to go all Owen Wilson there.
No, I feel like that movie's getting credit now for what it deserves. But when it first came out, it was terribly marketed, and I think people just weren't ready for a shitty ending.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's funny. I saw it once and I thought it was fantastic, and it is. It's that thing where it's like, it doesn't stay in the cultural lexicon. You kind of forget it exists, even though you've seen it and you enjoy it. It just kind of drifts off.
Yeah, I had only seen it once, and I recently rewatched it because it was on some streaming service like months ago, and I rewatched it, and I was like, "Damn, dude, this movie is just the cinematography is just beautiful. The contrast of when they're looking at the sun, it's just bright yellow. Just visually, it's stimulating with the sun scenes, and then in the ship, they keep it like blue and dark and claustrophobic almost.
Remind me who the lead is. Is it Cillian Murphy, or am I remembering that incorrectly? Okay.
Another one of my male crushes.
He's another one of those
He's
actors.
good looking.
He kind of flies under the radar a little bit. Like almost everything I've seen him in, I've enjoyed. I remember going back.
You watch Peaky Blinders?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
I
amazing in that.
Well, I mean,
he was just in Quiet Place too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him from, obviously he was in Batman Begins, but I loved his performance in Wes Craven's Red Eye with Rachel McAdams. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that movie in forever. That was a great movie.
It's a very underrated Wes Craven movie. Very underrated.
My best friend, because I turned her on to Peaky Blinders, and she's obsessed with Cillian Murphy. She wants to watch every movie that he's been in. And I was talking to her about Sunshine. She's like, "What? I've never heard of that movie." I was like, "Well, you need to watch it."
It's a great movie. It's definitely not for everyone. I can understand why people like. I don't even remember when it came out. Like, I don't remember a theatrical release or anything.
Early 2000s, I want to say.
I think it was like 2006, but I discovered it literally like 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like, "What is this movie?" I've kind of heard people talking about it.
Yeah, for sci-fi lovers, I feel like they kind of they overlooked it, and now it is getting more credit nowadays. But it took them like a decade to give it its credit. But when I first saw it, I was like, "This is ahead of its time." Like, it's just visually gorgeous, and I don't know if you remember. I always do this when I see a sci-fi movie with the suits, like the spacesuits, like what their spacesuits look like. And this, I don't know if you remember, it was like a gold spacesuit, and it was kind of like coppery and like almost like it was made out of chainmail kind of thing.
I know exactly what you mean.
But yeah, I thought that was the coolest spacesuit that I've ever seen in a sci-fi movie.
It's up there. I think if we're talking spacesuits, I think my favorite spacesuit in a movie is probably Prometheus.
Oh,
they have this green light underneath their face that makes everything look fantastic. No, a great pick. I feel like you said, that movie was very ahead of its time. It's just now finding an audience. I liken it to a film called Moon with Sam Rockwell, which
that was the one I was teeter-tottering with, either Moon, but Moon is like, it's turned into a classic.
That's the thing. That's another movie that when it came out, nobody noticed, and now it's kind of getting its just due.
Yeah, that was one and her Event Horizon was also one that didn't get credit back then and did terrible in the theaters, but now it's a classic. So I was like, out of all the sci-fi movies that need credit, I think Sunshine needs more than the other two.
I think that's a good call. And fun fact about Moon, that movie was directed by David Bowie's son. I don't know if you knew that.
Shut up.
Yeah, Duncan Jones, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, fun fact.
Oh, that makes me just love the movie even more.
All right.
That's adorable.
What are we at, 2?
Yes.
All right. My second to last pick is my only sequel on the list,
Oh, so you did put a sequel
I did
in.
put a
Okay.
sequel. I went back and forth because I feel like sequels are almost always underwhelming, and if it's a sequel, then that means something before it was successful enough to warrant it. So it's not really going to be underrated. But I feel like in this case, it's an extenuating circumstance. I picked William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist 3, which I am a massive fan of. And I feel like its biggest hindrance is the fact that it was called The Exorcist 3. I feel like that turned people away from it.
Yeah, well, yeah. Number 3, they're like, get out of here. I
Well,
don't want to see any more
yeah.
girls with projectile vomit out.
Well, that Exorcist 2 was such a disaster.
It was pretty
Creatively bankrupt. It just did. It's considered one of the worst movies ever, and I think
bad. Yeah.
that left a really bad taste in people's mouth. And when Exorcist 3 came out, they had no reason to believe otherwise. But the fact that it was directed by the guy who wrote The Exorcist, the original, and based on another book he had written called Legion, it's basically a loose sequel. It takes place in the world, but there's no, other than Father Dyer and Detective Kinderman, which are the cop and one of the side priests from the original Exorcist. There's no direct connections. It's all very loose, and it's a procedural. It's sort of a cop detective movie with really supernatural elements. George C. Scott plays Detective Kinderman. A performance that's fucking magical. I don't know. Have you seen The Exorcist 3?
I don't. If I did, I saw it when it first came out, and it totally left my brain. But I don't think I have.
Okay,
I don't think I have.
I can't undersell it enough. It's a really amazing psychological thriller. There are only hints.
What year did it come out?
Came out in 1990.
Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, originally they were going to call it Exorcist 90, which I think would have been a better title, but they probably should have called it Legion, which is the name of the book it's based on. But it's about this detective who was the same character as at the end of the original Exorcist, who is investigating the murder outside the McNeil house. And there's a bunch of murders going on that are really similar to a series of murders that had happened 20 years earlier by a guy named the Gemini Killer. Really ritualistic.
I've not seen this.
Really ritualistic murders. And what they discover, I'll try to keep the spoilers minimal here since you haven't seen the movie, is that there's a patient in a mental ward of a hospital that has been in there for 20 years, as it has. And he claims that he's the real Gemini Killer and that he is somehow getting out to commit these murders, even though he's never leaving his cell. I'll leave the details at that because there are more little Easter eggs towards The Exorcist.
Sounds real good.
It's really fantastic. And you can't really get any more different in terms of tone. It's a really dialogue-heavy movie. It almost feels like a play. See it.
Well, the original Exorcist is what really got me into horror movies. Well, it wasn't the first horror movie that I ever saw, but there was so much hype on it. My mom was like the only. My mom would always let me watch any movie I wanted, no matter like the first movie I saw in the theater when I was a kid. Like I went from seeing Seven for my mom because that's what she wanted to see, to seeing Lion King like a week later. That was my movie choice.
Wow.
So for some reason she was like, I don't want you watching The Exorcist. That's a bad movie. And I was like, well, now I really want to watch it. So it was on a rerun on HBO one night, and she was watching whatever she was watching, and I ran into my room, put it on, sat on the floor, and just watched. And I was terrified. It definitely resonates with me as a horror fan. Like Exorcist scared the crap out of me, and I understand why my mom didn't want me to watch it.
It still freaks me out to this day. I police myself with it. I'll only let myself watch it every couple of years. Because
it sits with you hard.
And I don't want it to ever not affect me. Like I don't ever want to be like, oh, The Exorcist is on. Like it's an event when I watch that movie. But yeah,
I was Linda Blair for Halloween one year,
oh, God.
and nobody like I've never been to a Halloween party where no one wanted to be around me. Everyone's just like, please go in the corner and face the wall. No one wants to see you. No one wants to talk to you.
That's outstanding. That's really great. I want to see those pictures if you have them.
Absolutely, I
want
have
to see
them.
those pictures. But yeah,
they're pretty gruesome.
See Exorcist 3. If you love the Exorcist, you're gonna love the through line of mythology that this carries in, because there are a lot of really great surprises.
I'm excited. I got some stuff to watch.
And it's got Brad Dourif in it, who gives a fuck. The voice. You probably know him best as the voice of Chucky.
I love him.
He's a magnificent actor, and he plays the patient in the asylum, and I'm not exaggerating. Oscar-worthy intensity. He is fucking phenomenal. If he'd given this performance in any movie that wasn't called Exorcist 3, he would have been up for an Academy Award. Hand to God.
Some bold words. All right.
I speaketh the trutheth.
Well, I can't wait to watch it then. I'll give you my 2 cents.
Please do. Please do.
All right. We down to number ones?
I believe we are.
What do you think my number one is?
Gosh, if I have to really rack my brain. I'm going to go with Catwoman. Showgirls?
It's actually Cats, the movie.
That was my next guess of something really fucking awful.
No, I'm just kidding.
Go for it.
Last Action Hero. I wanted so badly to put this on the list, and I went back and forth. I was like, no, I don't think it should go on here because it's like a cult classic. But some people still they've never even heard of it as a grown adult. And I think everyone should see it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I watched it over and over and over again as a kid, and watching as an adult, I still love it, and it still resonates with me as a child. Well, for a movie fan, like, it's like the biggest fantasy ever. Like, you get a magic ticket and you jump into your favorite movie character's movie, and you're like bonding with him and hanging out and like solving crimes.
Couldn't agree more. That is a really fantastic pick. Very underrated movie. I think it's failure because when it came out, it really got ripped apart critically, but then financially it didn't.
And it's still movie fans rip it apart to this day. I was like looking on YouTube, and it was just like a lot of negative over positive. I'm like, you don't even know what you're talking about.
People view it. They're sitting down to watch a different kind of movie than they're going to get.
Yeah, they want to see Terminator. They want to see.
And instead, they got
Predator.
A movie that was sort of making fun of the fact that people like these kind of movies. It works as a satire more than anything else. It's a comedy and a satire. And I think it came out. Go ahead.
Oh, so I was going to say the director that made Predator and Die Hard
John McTiernan
made that movie. And I was, when I first watched it as a kid, I didn't know who that was. But well, as an adult, finding that out, I was like, oh my goodness, that's why I love this movie.
Well, I think that was part of the problem was the marketing for that movie. They sold it as, the big Arnold summer movie. It's directed by John McTiernan, and people went in expecting like an extravaganza, and instead what they got was a joke, like a really smart joke.
Oh, it was really all the jokes in that movie were so clever and witty, and I think they were trying to tailor to a younger audience as well, like new fans coming to Arnold's realm versus older fans, and they're trying to tailor to because it's PG-13 movie,
right?
Where Terminator, I believe, is rated R, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So maybe that's where it fell short, and people just couldn't relate because it was kind of for kids as well, and they wanted more of an adult rated R film, which I get.
It also fell victim to a very crowded summer schedule. It came out the week before Jurassic Park. So once Jurassic Park came out, everything died. Everything that wasn't Jurassic Park went by the wayside. So that movie was a victim of its own schedule more than anything else.
Yeah, that happens a lot, unfortunately, but it is what it is. You gotta release it when you gotta release it.
I think that's one of Arnold's genuinely best performances.
I agree.
I think he's hilarious in it, and I think that it's one of the first movies you could probably call like a meta movie, where you know what I mean, where it's full on commenting on the state of movies like the one you're watching.
A character that doesn't want to acknowledge his real self. He's like, "What, Arnold Gesundheit?" Like, I don't know what you're saying.
Yes. Oh, excellent.
I love that about Jack Slater's character. He's like, he gets so annoyed every time he's like explaining.
No, it's a great pick. I'll say this: the only problem I have with Last Action Hero, and it's a really minimal one, is maybe it's not a minimal one. I can't stand the kid.
Really?
I can't take the performance
That's
of
like what his name's Austin O'Brien.
Austin O'Brien,
I
yeah.
don't think I ever saw him in another movie, so you might be right. He was a terrible actor.
I had seen him in a movie called The Lawnmower Man.
Oh my God, I forgot about that movie. He was in that.
Pierce Brosnan and Jeff
I
Fahey.
remember watching that, and I was terrified of lawnmowers. That was, I think, right around the same time that Ultimate, or what was that? Stephen King, Maximum Destruction. Is that what it's
Maximum
called?
Overdrive.
Yeah, Maximum Overdrive. Thank you. Yeah, I think that came out around the same time, and I was terrified of lawnmowers and semis for years.
Maximum Overdrive is one of my favorite inadvertently funny movies. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Lawnmower Man's super underrated, though. I probably should have considered that for my list because there's some really good stuff in that movie, but special effects are incredibly dated. But I found the kid a little grating. I liked him well enough until he started in with the whole like, I'm the sidekick, I'm the comic relief stuff. It just his voice, and this is probably just me, just grated on me after a while because he just sounded so snarky all the time. And I was like, if I were Arnold,
I liked that
I would
about
pitch
him.
this kid out of
I
the car
thought
and
if
run
he
over
was
him.
just like a snot-nosed kid, it wouldn't have been great. Like he was almost like a little, like he thought he was an adult, but he wasn't.
He's sort of the voice of the audience, and I get that, but yeah, like there's scenes where he's straight up talking to the villain, like, and he's like, "You made the classic mistake." It's like, if he's making the classic mistake, don't tell him, or he'll correct it.
Yeah.
So, but good pick.
But
Very
kids
good pick.
don't. Yeah, kids aren't filtered with their their words.
Very good pick, though. Very good pick. Very underrated movie.
I knew you would like it.
I approve.
I love it. It's my favorite.
Well done. I kind of ran into the same mental state of not sure if it would qualify for my first pick, because it is a movie that flew under the radar for a really long time, and the last 10 years or so has picked up a lot of steam. But I still think it doesn't get nearly the credit it deserves, and that's Joe Dante's The Burbs.
Oh, Burbs is a great movie.
Yeah,
did it do bad in?
It had a really strange run. It won its opening weekend, but then its numbers went down real quick, and it was actually only in theaters for 5 weeks.
Oh, bummer.
Critically, not a darling. It's a really weird period for Tom Hanks because it's sort of post Big, but pre Philadelphia Forrest Gump. And I just don't know if I guess it didn't appeal to the masses, but I love Joe Dante. I loved Gremlins. I loved Gremlins 2. I think Joe Dante, The Howling. Joe Dante is a fucking brilliant filmmaker. And I think The Burbs is a quirky, weird comedy. It's unlike any other movie I can think of. I think the performances in it are top notch. I think Carrie Fisher's great. Bruce Dern is great. It's a movie I grew up with. When I talk to people about Tom Hanks and they ask me what my favorite Tom Hanks movie is, and I say The Burbs, they look at me funny, either because they vehemently disagree or they have no idea what the hell I'm talking about.
That's crazy that nobody knows what you're talking about.
It's a small suburban town somewhere in the Midwest, and there's these new neighbors that move into this block that otherwise is really immaculate. Everyone takes care of their lawns, everyone's friendly to each other. It's fluffy white dogs and families and all that sort of stuff. And this family moves into a house and basically never comes out. No one in the neighborhood knows who they are. No one knows what they look like. All they know is that late at night into the early morning, they hear these weird, strange industrial sounds coming from the basement of the house. Everyone's curious. Everyone wants to investigate. Everyone in the neighborhood has a theory about who these people are. Some people think that they're serial killers. Some people think that they're literal demons or grave diggers. And basically, it turns an entire block of otherwise normal functioning adults into 12-year-old children snooping through their neighbors' trash and peeking in through their windows. And it's just an absolute riot. It's subtle. It's small. There's nothing about it that's like big and overblown or generic. But for me, I just find the performances really delightful. Tom Hanks is super relatable. Bruce Dern plays this former military general who lives across the street, who literally will spy through his infrared scope from across the street into his neighbors. It's a bunch of adults acting like children, and to me, that's my goal in life. So I completely relate to it, and absolutely love The Burbs. So that's the list. How are we feeling about it?
I feel pretty confident. It took me months of being a little nervous and going back and forth. Kind of stressed me out a little bit.
You've been preparing for this your whole life, Heather. Your whole life.
Yeah, it really was. It was a big buildup, and yeah,
I'm super impressed with your list.
And I'm impressed with your list. There were some movies on there that I should have put on that were kind of undercut movies, like people haven't heard of them. But I stuck with movies that most people would be familiar with.
I'm really upset I didn't put That's a Smoochie on my list. I'm really fucking pissed at myself.
Well, no, I'm glad you didn't. So then we didn't have overlapping stuff.
That's very true. God, I'm honestly gonna watch that as soon as we're done here. That's a Smoochie's going right on.
Yeah, people don't want to watch it. People don't want to watch a mirror. Like, oh, I like this Smoochie. Oh, me too.
The rhino's a Nazi. Well, tell us where we can find you, Heather, in case anyone wants to reach out to you.
I'm at Neptune Drifter on Instagram. That's about pretty much the only social I got. So
I'll put that in the description so people can find and harass you about your choices if they want to.
Have at it.
All right. And thank you very much for coming and doing this for the...
I'm honored to be on here and talk about movies with you. It's my favorite thing.
Well, hopefully we can do it again and a little more... less time to prepare, a little more, I don't know, chaotic and involuntary and random. So
yeah, I like it. Let's do it.
So it's a date. Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you soon. All right.
All right. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Bye.